I showed up for the holidays and my mom said she didn't know me. I wasn't planning on going home. I debated it for weeks, telling myself I'd just send a gift or call after dinner. But something made me book a last-minute train. I packed light, grabbed a bottle of wine, and thought maybe showing up would be a good surprise. I got to the house around 6. The porch lights were glowing, the same old ceramic snowman still leaning a little to the left. Through the window, I saw people, my family, moving around, laughing, plates in hand. It looked warm, familiar. Exactly what I remembered. I knocked. The door opened partway. My mom stood there. She looked right at me. And then she said, "I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong house." Her voice was polite. Cold. Like a stranger's. And then she shut the door. At first, I thought she was joking. Maybe some weird prank. But the door didn't open again. I stood there, holding the wine, heart racing. I could still hear laughter inside. My hands shook. I knocked again, more timid this time. Nothing. I stepped back, walked to the end of the driveway, unsure what to do. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from my cousin, Caleb. "Don't be mad. We just couldn't let you in this year." That's all it said. I replied with one word, "Understood." No answer. I got in my rental and just sat there. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. It felt like falling quiet, detached. My breath fogged up the windshield as I sat with the engine off, the bottle of wine untouched on the passenger seat. I remembered how many times I had bailed them out over the past few years. Rent. Groceries. Utility bills. When my dad got laid off, I stepped in. When Caleb dropped out of school, I helped him cover housing and food. I'd given my mom a debit card just in case. But now I was a stranger at my own front door. I drove back to my apartment that night in silence. When I walked in, the tiny tree I'd decorated weeks earlier blinked in the corner. I sat down, opened my laptop, and began cutting financial ties. Rent transfer, cancelled. Joint account, closed. Gas card Caleb used, blocked. Backup credit card, disabled. No revenge. No anger. Just a calm, steady sense of completion. By morning, my phone had 47 missed calls. I didn't answer any of them. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I already knew what they were going to say. And honestly, I didn't care anymore. Background. My name's Paul. I'm 33. I've always been the guy who fixes things. Not just leaky pipes or broken windows, I mean the real stuff. When things fell apart, I stepped in. Quietly, reliably. That was my role in the family. When my mom needed help covering her medical bills, I sent money. When my brother couldn't make rent, I paid it. When my dad's insurance lapsed and they needed prescriptions, I drove to 3 different pharmacies to get it sorted out. They said thank you. Sometimes. But more often, they just moved on like help from me was expected. Like I was the backup plan. The walking safety net. And for a long time, I accepted that. Last Thanksgiving, I started noticing cracks. I'd paid for the entire meal. Not just the turkey, everything. Even the folding chairs. When I showed up early to help set the table, my mom barely looked up from the kitchen. "Just leave that in the fridge," she said. Later, when it was time for the family photo, she handed me the phone. "Can you take the picture?" she asked. "Just the family." I laughed it off at the time. But when I saw the photo on Facebook the next day, captioned "Grateful for everyone who matters most," I wasn't in it. Not in the frame. Not in the comments. Just invisible. They never saw me as part of them, only the one who supported them. That realization started small. But standing on the porch that night, hearing my own mother say she didn't know me? That's when it became real. The morning after I cut them off, I woke up early. Not to check emails. Not because my phone was buzzing. Just awake. The apartment was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels empty, but the kind that lets you breathe. I made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table. Looked out the window. My phone sat on the counter. Still. No more buzzing. No more vibrating like a fire alarm I couldn't shut off. 47 missed calls the night before. I hadn't opened any voicemails. I didn't need to. Because I already knew the rhythm: first comes confusion, then guilt, then blame. It didn't start with money. It started with little things. Being left out of group texts. Not getting a birthday call, just a generic "hope it's a good one" from my mom on Facebook. Or worse, nothing at all. It was Caleb getting a brand new car for graduation. When I asked how they could afford it, my dad said, "Well, we didn't have to worry about your school, Paul. You got through everything on your own." That was supposed to be praise. But it felt more like a sentence. When I was laid off during the pandemic, I didn't tell them. I lived on savings for 5 months. Took on contract work. Ate a lot of beans and pasta. When I finally told my mom, her response was, "Why didn't you say something sooner?" We could've, well, I guess not much. But still. They never offered help. But they always asked for it. When Dad had back surgery, I paid half the bill. When my sister Morgan's heater broke down in January, I covered it twice. Once for the initial repair, then again when the guy didn't fix it properly. Every time, it came with the same line: "You've got your life together. We just need a little help getting back on track." I was never asked how I was doing. Just how much I could spare. The photo that broke something. It was last Christmas. I'd paid for the entire meal again. Grocery delivery. Wine. A few decorations I ordered online. I couldn't come in person because of work. They FaceTimed me halfway through dinner, just enough to show the food, say thanks, and hang up. The next day, I saw the photos on Morgan's Instagram. Long caption. Lots of tags. Not one mention of me. Someone had commented, "Wow, amazing spread." Morgan replied, "Mom really outdid herself." I closed the app. I didn't say anything. I never did. Back to the present. I sat at my kitchen table, scrolling through my banking history. Seeing how far it went back made me feel physically sick. Rent. Medical. Repairs. Prescriptions. Flights for other people. Groceries I never ate. One transaction stood out: $500 sent directly to my mom just in case a few months earlier. I remembered slipping it in without being asked, just hoping it helped. She never mentioned it again. The next day, I got a text from Morgan. "Morgan, hey, things are kind of falling apart over here. I don't know what's going on, but Mom's a mess. Did something happen?" I didn't answer. Because something hadn't just happened. It had been happening for years. I remembered the time Caleb called me crying because he couldn't afford gas to get to work. I wired him $150 before the call even ended. 2 days later, I saw a post from him at a bar with friends. Tagged location: brewery downtown. I messaged him, "Thought you were broke?" He replied, "Don't be like that." I needed the break. That was when I realized I wasn't helping, I was enabling. That night, I turned off my phone completely. I sat in the dark with a blanket, my coffee, and silence. I could hear the wind brushing against the window. The radiator knocking. No one needed anything from me. And for the first time, I didn't feel selfish for keeping something for myself. Reflection. I'm not perfect. I gave because I wanted to help. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to make things harder. I told myself it was just temporary. But temporary became normal. And normal became toxic. They got used to the idea that my presence didn't matter, only my support did. The more I pulled back, the clearer it became. They didn't love me less because I said no. They just stopped pretending. It had been 5 days. My phone stayed off. I went to work. I ate better. I read the book that had been sitting on my shelf for over a year. I cleaned the apartment like I was preparing for company I didn't expect. In those 5 days, I didn't feel lonely. I felt still. On the 6th morning, I turned my phone on. I hadn't planned to. But I guess curiosity won out. There were 38 new messages and 11 voicemails. A mix of my mom, my dad, Morgan, and Caleb. A few messages were simple. "We need to talk. Call us. This has gone too far." Others were more calculated. "We're family. We've always been there for you. Don't do something you'll regret. Mom's not eating. She's crying every day." And then, one from my dad. "Dad, this tantrum is costing us everything. Is that what you want?" I read that one 3 times. Then I deleted it. A few hours later, Morgan called. I let it ring. Then a text popped up. Morgan, we're having a family meeting. Mom says come by the house tonight. No drama. Just talk. I stared at the message. Family meeting. The last time they called something a family meeting, it was about Caleb getting kicked out of his apartment for not paying rent. They wanted me to co-sign a lease. I had said no. The room went cold. No one said anything for a while. That was a year ago. They hadn't called another meeting since. I don't know why I went. Maybe I needed to see their faces. Maybe I needed them to say it out loud that I was never part of the family the way they pretended I was. When I pulled up to the house, it looked the same. Lights on. Wreath on the door, though it had gone a little crooked. I walked in without knocking. They were already in the living room. My mom sat on the edge of the couch, wringing her hands. Morgan stood by the fireplace. My dad was pacing. Caleb sat off to the side, phone in his lap. No one spoke until I did. You invited me to talk. So talk. Hazel, my mom, stood up first. Paul, we didn't mean to hurt you. We were overwhelmed. The holidays are always a lot. I nodded slowly. And saying I had the wrong house? What was that? She swallowed. It was. I don't know. It was stupid. I panicked. Panicked? I said. When you saw your son? Her voice cracked. You're twisting things. I'm quoting them. My dad stepped in then. We can fix this. But shutting us out financially? That's not how families work. I looked at him. How does it work then? He hesitated. Is family when one person pays for everything? When one person cancels vacations, eats canned soup, and gets left out of photos? Don't be dramatic, he muttered. It's not drama. It's facts. Morgan spoke next. You've been quiet for so long, Paul. Why didn't you say anything? I did, I said. You just didn't hear it. Or you didn't care. You're making this harder than it has to be. No, I said. I'm just not making it easier anymore. Then Caleb finally looked up from his phone. So you're just done? With all of us? I looked at him. You said I thought paying rent gave me a seat at the table. He blinked. How do you? I heard you, I said. That night. Through the window. Right after Mom said she didn't recognize me. He looked away. Did you mean it? I asked. He shrugged. I don't know. Maybe. It was a dumb joke. No. It wasn't a joke. It was honest. Hazel began crying softly. We didn't realize you felt so outside the family, she said. That's because you never asked, I replied. You only asked when you needed something. Dad's voice dropped to a growl. You think you're better than us now? No, I said. I think I'm free from you now. No one said anything. The room wasn't angry. It was just quiet. Not the kind of quiet that meant peace, but the kind that meant truth. I stood up. I'm not angry, I said. I'm just done. Paul, wait, Hazel called, but I was already at the door. I didn't slam it. I just closed it behind me. And walked away. Reflection. That meeting wasn't about apologizing. It was about control. About trying to find the right words to get me back in place. Back on payroll. They didn't apologize. They negotiated. 2 weeks passed. No one called. No one texted. No one dropped by. It felt strange at first, like stepping off a treadmill that never stopped moving. The silence wasn't scary. It was just unfamiliar. I slept more. Ate better. Took walks after work. Sat in the park and watched people walk their dogs. My world got smaller. But it got lighter. Then I ran into someone who knew everything. Mrs. Dana, my old neighbor from the block I grew up on, spotted me at a coffee shop near my apartment. She sat down without asking. She had that face people wear when they think they're about to deliver important news. You know they lost the house, right? I blinked. What? Your parents. They're gone. Had to move in with your Auntie Lane. Caleb's working part-time at the gas station. Morgan's back with her ex. It's a mess, Paul. A real mess. I sipped my coffee. I see. They say it's your fault. I met her eyes. Of course they do. She didn't say anything after that. Just quietly took her tea to go and left. That night, I got a text from Morgan. Morgan, we lost the house. Dad's blaming Mom. Mom's blaming the market. Caleb hasn't spoken to anyone in days. I don't know what to do. No, I'm sorry. No, you were right. Just panic. Because their net finally tore and I wasn't underneath it anymore. I didn't reply. I kept living. The raise I got from work went straight into savings. I finally bought a new bed. Adopted a senior cat named Oliver. He was quiet and tired, like me. We fit. One morning, I found the old family photo albums in the back of my closet. I hadn't looked at them in years. Most of the photos were holidays. Vacations. School concerts. In most of them, I wasn't in the shot. I was behind the camera. Every birthday party had Caleb front and center, blowing out candles. Every Thanksgiving, my mom was smiling with the turkey. But me? I was the one holding the tripod. Holding the checkbook. Holding everything together. There was one picture from a camping trip when I was 10. We were all in it. Even me. I was off to the side, holding a flashlight, barely in the frame. And smiling. That's the one that hurt the most. Because back then, I still thought I belonged. Then came the message that should have shattered me, but didn't. Hazel, Mom. We lost more than the house. I think we lost you. And I don't blame you anymore. I just wish we'd noticed sooner. Your dad won't say it, but he feels it too. Caleb's angry. Morgan's quiet. But I miss you every day. I understand if you can't come back. Just wanted you to know we were wrong. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care. But because I no longer needed to. Reflection. They thought without me, nothing would change. But without me, everything changed. They thought I'd come running when the world fell apart. But this time, I let it fall. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Weeks passed. The silence didn't just continue, it became normal. I stopped checking my phone for messages that never came. The apartment, once just a place I slept, started to feel like home. The couch I used to sink into like a burden now held me like safety. I planted herbs in small pots on the windowsill. Basil. Thyme. Mint. They grew quietly. Like me. One Saturday morning, I passed a family at the park. Mom, Dad, little girl with glittery sneakers. The dad handed her a juice box, the mom laughed at something the girl said. I didn't feel envy. I felt distance. Not the bitter kind. The kind you feel when you've left something far behind and know it doesn't belong to you anymore. Then, months later, Caleb showed up at my building. I saw him from the window, same old coat, hands in his pockets, pacing. He looked thinner. Not sick, just smaller. He hesitated before ringing the bell. I opened the front door before he buzzed. He looked surprised. Maybe he expected me to ignore him. Hey, he said. I nodded. Hey. He shifted on his feet. I don't know. Wanted to say thanks. For what? He scratched the back of his neck. For stopping. I blinked. He kept talking. You always caught us. Every time we fell. And we never learned to stand because we didn't have to. I didn't say anything. I was angry, he added. Still kinda am. But not at you. He paused. Then handed me something. A small envelope. I opened it after he left. Inside was a photo. That same old camping trip. But this time, someone had drawn a little arrow on it, pointing to the edge where I stood with the flashlight. In neat handwriting, you were always there. I'm sorry we didn't see it. I sat with that for a long time. Not because I needed the apology. but because it meant I wasn't invisible anymore. The final message came a month later. Hazel, Mom. We're moving again. Smaller place. Your dad's tired all the time. I started painting again. I don't expect you to reply, but I wanted you to know I finally understand what you did. You didn't abandon us. You stopped abandoning yourself. That was the last message I ever received from her. I didn't reply. I didn't need closure in the form of a perfect ending. I got closure in the form of peace. Today, I live simply. I work. I come home. I make my own dinners. Oliver curls up beside me on the couch while I read. I celebrate holidays with friends who ask how I'm doing and mean it. Sometimes, I think about the house. The porch light. The wreath. The sound of that door quietly clicking shut. It doesn't haunt me anymore. It taught me that sometimes, the only way to survive a fire is to stop carrying water for people who keep striking matches. Reflection. I didn't get justice in the way movies show it. No dramatic apologies. No sweeping reconciliation. But I got what mattered. Space. Stillness. Freedom. And in that, I found something I'd been missing for years. Not revenge. Not recognition. Just myself. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.